Welcome to the Grassroots Army podcast. I am, of course, your host, former Michigan gubernatorial. Oh my goodness, it's Wednesday. Candidate Garrett Soldano, and I am very excited to bring a special young lady on here today who is throwing her hat into the ring, Alexandria Taylor, and she has a great story for all of you. So I'm going to bring her on right now so we can get right after it. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It is so great to be here this morning.
We're so excited to have you on to hear your story. And obviously, the elephant in the room, as we say, is why in the heck are you even considering a statewide race for Senate?
Yes. So, why am I running for Senate? So, I have always had a calling for service, and my path as an attorney was to run for judge, which I did in 2020. And I made it past the primary. I unseated an almost 2-decade incumbent, and then I lost narrowly in the general. And after that, I just had a time of deep prayer and reflection, like, what is my direction? Like, I knew that I was called for public service and for elected office. And looking around at the state of our country and then locally in our communities, and I decided to step out of my comfort zone, Garrett. It's like my comfort zone would have been to run for another judicial race. But I think that we're in a season where we need strong leadership. And instead of complaining about it, I stepped up and said, I'm going to step outside of this and do something greater, give back in a greater way. And so I took that step of faith. And before doing that, I had rallied local religious leaders and just getting some grassroots support. We did like Zoom meetings and strategizing. And I said, I'm going to take that step of faith and I'm going to do it.
Wow. And just like we were talking a little bit before we got on this interview today, people just don't understand how much work and sacrifice that it takes to run a statewide. I mean, we don't live in Rhode Island, that's for sure. Michigan is a pretty big state. And just to take on that, monumental task, you get all the respect in the world for me, that's for sure.
Thank
So
you.
we talked a little bit about, obviously you're getting some attacks. I mean, that's just the nature
Yes.
of the beast with this horrible, evil game called politics.
Yes.
And also like leaving the Democrat Party, correct? Is that what you said that you did?
Yes. Yes. So that is a big part of my testimony. And it's actually the video that I have on the website when I made my announcement on June 6th at my law firm downtown Detroit. I just shared a testimony about just growing up as a person of color. I grew up Democrat, which is not an unusual story, like a lot of those in the Black community. But when I think about it, my parents were not liberal. Like, they were actually very conservative. My stepdad, I was in a blended family. My stepdad was a pastor, my mother, the first lady, and was a very traditional home, very traditional gender roles. And we can't even say gender roles anymore, but it was very traditional gender roles. And so I think about, like, when I got caught up in the liberal movement was when I went to college. So I went to Michigan State, and I've always had that fight in me, just like as a litigator, even though I wasn't in that position then, but I always had that passion and that drive, but I just was fighting on the wrong side. And so when I ran for office for the first time in 2018, I ran for state rep locally downriver, and I lost that race. And then afterwards, they said, get involved in the party. It'll increase your chances. And so I got involved, and I was on the board. I was an alternate on State Central and the Democratic Party. And my eyes were truly open to, like, the demonic workings of the Democratic Party. And I think that that was intentional for me and my journey, because I came to a crossroads. Like, I grew up traditional Southern Baptist, very, very strict, so to say. And I came to this crossroads where I'm just like, my walk and my talk aren't in alignment. And so I made the decision to switch. But I'm gonna be honest, in the beginning, I was more like a closet Republican, because I guess I just was nervous about, one, how I would be received, like, by my own community, and then how it would be received in this new party. And so I talk about that sometimes when I go around, because when we think about flipping other people and getting them to vote red, it's like we have to consider our approach and what does this look like. And so I share, like, it was stepping outside of my comfort zone, because we know the Democratic Party has masterfully woven race in their platform. And so when you think about, okay, I'm switching and I'm walking into rooms where really it's nobody that looks like me, like what does that look like, for me, my role in this party? And so at some point, I just decided, okay, I'm just going to tell, I started with telling my family, like, hey, I'm no longer Democrat. Like, I'm Republican. I voted for Trump, you know, and they're looking at me like, okay. And, so when it came to announcing this race and really getting out there, I took a lot of heat professionally because, my law firm is downtown Detroit. I do a lot of work in Wayne County. I've worked with a lot of judges, held fundraisers. I've been in politics for years on the back end and on the front. And so I took a lot of heat. But the reality is, we're in a time where you need bold leadership. And for me, it was never about being called to the Republican Party. It was a call of righteousness and looking at my life and even looking at, just the Black community and its relationship with the Democratic Party is like we've made an idol out of race and we're elevating race over righteousness. When I saw churches in 2022 advocating for Prop 3, I'm just like,
Yeah.
we have truly elevated race over righteousness. And so when I looked at, just this race and this call for me to run, I'm just like, I feel like in this season, God is using my voice as a person of color to say, look, we don't have to be Democrat. We don't. And I think if you look at it, and this is a fact, if you poll most Black people, they poll conservative. So then you look at what's the issue, the stigma created by the Democratic Party that the Republican Party is racist.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And so if we just talk issues, like, and I test this out all the time. When I tell people I'm running for Senate, they assume as a Democrat because I'm Black. I've said nothing. Let's just talk issues. We're in agreement. They don't want the gender ideology in schools. They don't want boys going in girls' bathrooms. They don't want boys playing in girls' sports. But the minute that they learn, like, oh, you're running Republican, like, what? I didn't know that. But it's like when it was just the issues, when you didn't have the stigma, we agreed. And so, yes, I'm taking a lot of heat, but at the end of the day, it's worth it because everything is at stake next year. Everything is on the line. And we, in particular, need Black leaders that will speak out against the foolishness, speak out against defund the police. That makes no sense. We need law and order. And so, as a leader and a Black leader in this state, I just felt compelled. It's like, I have to speak out because I believe that there are other Blacks, people of color who feel the same way and who may be closet conservative and may have felt those same feelings, and they're waiting for somebody that they can resonate with and a message that they can resonate with in 24.
You have so much great stuff that you just said, and you're spot on. And if we just go down to the issues, I really feel that like 70% of society would say, well, yeah, we don't want biological men playing in girls' sports and sharing the locker rooms and bathrooms and everything
Yes.
else that's going on and indoctrinating our kids with all this hot garbage in schools. Let's get back to the basics. I really feel that most Americans,
Yes.
believe that. And it's so true what you just said about, the Democrat Party and what they kind of push out of the narrative because they control
Yes.
corporate media. They control social media. The algorithms are set up to make sure that conservatives don't have a voice. And
Yes.
that's why we constantly are pushing to get information out so people can say, well, yeah, and we got to get away from this mentality, Alex, that if you don't agree with me 100% of the time, then I hate you. I attack you. I'm going to attack your business. I mean, we got to understand that if we're on agreement on most of the issues, we're allies, and we can argue and have disagreements, and we got to get away from that mentality that if I disagree with you, I have to hate you.
Right.
No, we shouldn't. And I want to go into what you said because it was very important is with leadership. And that's what I think is lacking right now in the Republican Party is we don't have the right leadership, I feel, because leaders unite. Leaders have to take the arrows. They have to unite. And then when we unite, we can get on the same message, which is going to produce a narrative. That I think we're scattered as Republicans right now. So what is your opinion on the leadership, specifically with the Michigan GOP right now with Christina Caroma?
So the leadership here in Michigan is very fractured. And so every time I go speak at a GOP meeting, I say it like this: we have to all be in the boat rowing in the same direction, because if we have a common goal, we have to coalesce around that goal. But right now, everybody wants to be right. And you have all of this infighting and it's tearing us apart. And meanwhile, it's like you have the Democrats looking and seeing which one of these seats are vulnerable that they can flip. And so I don't agree with it. And let me just give you the perfect example. It's like, even with the stuff with John James in the speaker vote, I just feel like we at some point we have to get over it, because that seat, you're making that seat vulnerable to a Democrat coming in and flipping it. Because I've seen, he's not my congressman, but I followed it. It's like everything he posts is people in the comments, you're going to be a one term. We haven't forgotten. And I get people want answers, and I'm hoping at some point there'll be a discourse where there'll be a communication about what happened there. But we can't just keep attacking our own, because you better believe that Democrats are looking at his seat. Because let me tell you this: every time they talk about representation, like on the Democratic side, I've heard so many people say, Dems, of course, we have no black representation. They don't even look at John James. It's like, you do have black representation. He represents a portion of Detroit. And so we're making that seat vulnerable when we do things like that. In the same thing, with Christina Caramo. At this point, I tell people, I don't care if you like her or you don't like her. We need to rally behind her to support her, because she is the chairperson. So the chairwoman, we need to get behind her and support her, because to go the other way hurts every race from the top down. And so, we have to get on one accord. And that's something that, when you look at Democrats, they have infighting. It's not like it's perfect over there, but they will get on one accord to flip a seat, flip a whole bunch of seats. And we're not doing that. It's just like, it's a constant fighting. I don't trust this person. I don't like this person. This person's a rhino. And we just have to do better, because right now we're losing. And if we don't get these seats, we have no representation. Without representation, we don't have a voice.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% with that. I mean, it's unfortunate we are our own worst enemies right now with the infighting and everything else that they spread and the rumors spread, and then the Democrats just sit back. And you're right, they fall right in line. I mean, there may be some infighting. I mean, look what happened to Bernie Sanders the last 2 election cycles. They screwed him.
Right.
But he doesn't come out and bash the party. He falls right in the line,
Right in
because
line.
they understand. And unfortunately, Republicans, I guess we just all have enormous egos, and we can't get in a room and just have a simple conversation. I think all of our mothers need to come in the room and give us a little smack upside the head again. That's for sure. So let's move on to a little bit of policy, especially in the state of Michigan. What's going on with Gretchen Whitmer, who also went to Michigan State. But with the energy, with the basically taking the local control away and having the state control the energy, which I think is absolutely horrendous. What would your take be on that? And, with the Green Deal, with 2040 being carbon neutral and everything else, like, what's your opinions on those matters?
Well, I don't agree, and I won't support any policy with taking that control away from locally. But the Green New Deal, I think, is a hoax. I don't believe it. I will not ever support any mandate for electric vehicles. And I agree with a lot of the things that President Trump has said about that. It's like, you're pushing these vehicles on us. Nobody wants to buy them. And you're driving up the cost of regular cars. Like, I'm not sure about you, but like, I've had several friends recently, in the market to purchase a new car, and just regular cars are crazy expensive now. Like, you cannot get a car for under 50,000.
No,
like you really can't. And so I support using our natural energy resources. I do not agree with the windmills. When we were traveling up north to a campaign event and I was coming back, and I can't remember, I was about an hour south of Traverse City, and I came through a city and it looked like they probably had 60, 80 of the windmills on the farmland. And I don't support that. I support natural energy resources and coal. And I'm not sure it's this agenda to move away from that. To me, it's all about control, and which is interesting, because the Democrats like to market themselves as a party of choice, but it really is about control. And I will not ever support any policy as such. Like, I just won't.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think as Americans and human beings, we want to do everything we can to protect the environment. I'm all for that. Like, you bring me some common sense solutions, and make our water better, our air better, not pollute the earth and leave this place better than when we came into it. Like, I'm all ears. But
Me
when
too.
you're force feeding this garbage narrative without any true science and data, because, people don't talk about this with these gosh darn solar panel farms that are going in everywhere, and the acres that they're using, the farmland that they're using for it. They don't talk about the rare earth metals and what type of mining goes into that to produce. And they don't talk about the toxicity when they expire in 20 years. Who's going to be responsible for the cleanup? The landowner? And it just goes on and on. So I think we all can agree, because again, what the Democrats push out is Republicans are against the environment. No, we're against ignorance. And you give us a common sense solution. And to me, it's nuclear is another option. Do them all, do what's right for people, keep the cost down and everything else. But I would agree with you on that. I want to move to what Vivek Ramaswamy said last night, because I think it's very important, especially with you being in the race and what you're up against with not only the Democrat Party, but the control that they have over social media and corporate media. So I'm going to bring this on right now.
Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Christian Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Christian, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real, or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Woo.
Mr. Roberts, this is how we get our country back. We need accountability, because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
and they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie.
I mean, that was a mic drop with Vivek.
That was a mic drop, like if I've ever seen one. But that's what we need: bold leaders who are willing to speak out against the establishment.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, and that look on that journalist's face was kind of like just cocky, arrogant, like, yeah, what are you going to do about it kind of deal. And it's just, It's infuriating. But that's what literally you are up against, which leads me to this next question: is fundraising is just absolutely enormous. And it's unfortunate that it has to be this way, because I've interviewed a lot of candidates on a lot of different levels of races that they're running. And all of you folks, you're great. You got a great platform. You come from the heart. You can feel that you do. But if you don't get your message out to the masses, then you don't have a chance. And I always relate it to my run for governor. I mean, we logged 43,000 miles on the campaign car. We raised $2.2 million. And I got in front of people, and we would draw some big crowds. But on average, we would see 200 to 500. Sometimes we have a couple thousand at our events. But if you add up all the events that we did, I only really got in front of 65 to 70,000 people. You need over 2 million to win.
Right.
A statewide race. So the unfortunate part is we have to pay the evil, corrupt corporate media money to get time so our messaging can get out. So where are you at with fundraising, and what amount of fundraising do you think you need to actually not only win in the primary, but the general?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So we are working with a national fundraiser because obviously, a race of this magnitude, like, you really need a certain level of expertise in fundraising and an organization that has access to donors. And so that's been going, pretty well, but it can be slow in the beginning. I mean, it really is, especially when you're trying to increase name recognition, because I've only ever run locally. And so that process can be a little slow. And you're right, that's a reality of this race. I had the opportunity to talk to somebody in DC, and I just, asking them about the Senate race, and they're like, well, we think, Mike Rogers is best poised to go up against Alyssa Slotkin and make it past the primary, of course, and then win in the general. And then I said, okay, well, I disagree, obviously, but taking fundraising, taking the financial aspect out of the equation, why? And long story short, there was no answer. I mean, it just was 100% financial, which is unfortunate. And, it's just, that is the controlling factor, in these races of this magnitude, is like how much money you can raise. I mean, it's like your viability as a candidate in this type of race is linked to the amount of money that you can raise. And so, even though it was a slow start initially, like now that we have this really good fundraiser, like I feel really good about that. But I think the biggest part is just getting that national traction. And so I believe that the story that I have is one that will resonate. And the key is using social media. So like you said, we know how the media is corrupt, but the thing is, with social media, I think we have a better chance. And so I was watching Fox News the other day, and it was the older gentleman, and he said that he was like, Republicans, like, we have to go on TikTok. And it's like, I think TikTok is crazy personally, but it's like, we have to do it. We have to go on there. And it was so funny because even as like an older guy, he said it, he was like, and don't be stiff. So we have to be relatable. And so we have to use these channels. And something I always say in my law firm is like, we're not out here reinventing the wheel. And so, we look at these mediums that Dems have used and been successful, like with social media, and we have to do that same thing, but do it better. And so the corporate media is going to be corporate until we can change that narrative. Well, we can't change that narrative while we're losing, because Vivek is right. And I've been saying the same thing, like as Republicans, like we have been losing, and we keep putting up the same type of candidate, and we keep losing with that type of candidate. Yep. And so it's like, we have to change this narrative. And I was looking at something the other day. It was with Letitia James, and who's completely ridiculous, but it was like this rally she had held, because, she's had this thing as President Trump for years. And I think it was like 2016, 17. And she was like, they're too male, too pale, and too stale. And it's just crazy. But you have all these people cheering, but it's like, let's stop playing into the narrative and put up a different type of candidate. Because when you change the narrative, it's almost like they're stumped. And it was just the same thing, when I was working with Christina Caramo. It was like, okay, so you can't say she's racist, like that, you know what I mean? It's like, so you're not going to get far with that narrative. And so it's like, we have to, change things up a little bit and be willing to step outside of our comfort zone, as Republicans. So is it going to be difficult? Yes. But what are we? We're the grassroots army. So we could do it. It's like, this is going to be a grassroots movement, period. Yeah. And so we have to use these mediums. And I've been, getting more acclimated to TikTok, which, is a challenge, but just posting and putting content out there, because it's easy. Like I have a client who is an influencer, and she's a paid influencer. So she's helped me and, get out there and use these grassroots mediums and not worry so much right now about the corporate media, and use those to increase name recognition, traction, and get media traction that way.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, it's funny that you say TikTok. I've been banned off TikTok for life twice, and it's my third time on. But people have to understand, like, you have to get out of your own echo chamber.
Yes.
And people are like, well, you need to get on Truth Social. That's just an echo chamber. Everyone that's on there agrees. No, you have to bring the people from the middle if you really truly want to win and get your narrative out. So people are like, you need to go to Rumble. I'm like, I'm everywhere, but I'm not going to quit posting on YouTube. My YouTube channel just got deleted again, I think 4 weeks ago. We had like 250,000 subscribers, and I exposed the border invasion, which we're going to talk about immigration here in a second. Yes. And they took my video down, they deleted my channel, and they gave me an email, said that was hurtful. It's like, hurtful? I'm just giving the gosh darn truth to folks, and that's what people want. Like, you give us the truth, will handle it. Like everything with the Nashville Manifesto that Louder with Crowder, Steven Crowder just posted, it's getting censored on every or every platform, except for X right now. And
Right.
it shows the evil of people. And it's not that she was transgender, it's evil. And that's
Right.
one thing that the Dems will continue to push is Republicans are anti-gay and transphobe and blah, blah. No, we're not.
Let me tell you. So 2 weeks ago, my campaign office manager was texting in the group thread. Her 8-year-old daughter, 8 years old, brought home a book called It Feels Good to Be Me. So she sent us a picture of the cover and print up under it a book about gender ideology. She sends me pictures of the inside of the book, and it talks about being born in the wrong body. 8 years old. Okay. My youngest is 6. So she sends this, and I'm just like on fire. I have 3 school-age children. So I go on TikTok immediately and I post a video. Because let me say this, and you know this because you're a bold voice. We have to be willing to speak the truth. Doesn't matter what they say, we have to be willing to speak the truth. And so I did a video, and when I tell you they were coming for me in the comments, like, just vile stuff. But it's like, it doesn't matter because we are planting seeds. And so we cannot be, dissuaded by the negative comments. And what I told the team, I said, well, it's increasing the traction, that's a great thing, but we have to be willing to do it because if we don't, who will?
Yep.
And I said, and I made it very clear because I truly, truly believe this as an attorney, as a politician, as a parent. I respect your ability to parent. You have a right to parent your children. So if this is something that you believe and you adopt in your own home, that's none of my business. None of my business. What goes on in your home. But when it comes to the government in schools, mandating, and then now we have the neutral bathrooms and we have this and we have that. I have a problem with that. But again, what you want to do in your home, completely fine. And it's like people, they don't want to hear that. It's like, well, you're this and you're that. I had somebody tell me, you're the type of person that was against desegregation in schools. People just going left field, but it's like, no, because what you do in your home, it doesn't matter. You want to have tea time with drag queens? Fine with me. Don't bring them into school though.
Amen.
And so we have to say it,
Yep. No, you're spot on. And again, it's just, I think people need to hear that, especially for folks who are running for public service, is that we're all real. We're all Americans. We're all human beings. We have a heart, we have a mind, and we have common sense, which is obviously not so common in a lot of politics. That's for sure. So what's your solution for the border? What are we going to be fighting for there and the invasion that's unfortunately happening with the millions and millions of illegals that have crossed during the Biden administration?
Build the wall. So let me say this. As a criminal defense attorney, I primarily practice downtown Detroit. And one of the consequences of an open border that I see is fentanyl. But let me tell you where I see it. High schools, middle schools. We spoke in Isabella County like a couple months ago. A guy raised his hand. His granddaughter, 15, 16, just overdosed on fentanyl. So this is what I see. And let me say this. 80% of this stuff never hits the media. So the public perception is like, oh, it's not that bad. But I'm in the courts. I'm sitting there listening, hearing what's going on, and it's very bad. And so this is a consequence of an open border that people don't think about. Also, we don't know who is over here. Like when we're looking at the current conflict right now in Israel and Palestine, we don't know who is over here activated and ready. We have no idea.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand this fight against securing our border. This is national security. And so I personally will support a policy to secure the border, period. This is not a difficult issue. This isn't rocket science.
No,
there are much more complicated issues that we face and have faced as Americans. The border, this should not be a complicated issue. Secure the border. And right now, I feel because one, we have weak leadership, in Washington, that we are vulnerable for an attack. I honestly feel that way. And I tell people, it's like, make sure you protect yourself. I'm a very strong advocate of the Second Amendment. I have a CPL. And so it's like, make sure you protect yourself because I just feel that we are very vulnerable right now.
Yeah, I like that you took the words right out of my mouth with the Second Amendment. That was going to be my next question of where's your stance. I'm glad that you are obviously for the Second Amendment. But again, I think we all can agree, and as a criminal defense attorney, you know this because you've dealt with folks that, we got to keep the crazies from getting access to guns, and that's all common sense. We don't want people who are schizophrenic obviously to have access. But I really feel that it's like a gray area, and red flag laws on paper, well, yeah, they look good because, hey, we want to keep the guns out of the crazy folks' hands so they don't do a lot of damage. However, I think where the problem lies now is the corruption of, and you're in this field, is the judicial system.
Yes.
They're not ruling on the Constitution. They're ruling on political beliefs, and decisions are made on political beliefs.
Yes.
And someone could report me as a radical right extremist, which they have, and the FBI comes to my house, which they did, and they could take all of my guns, which I don't own any guns. All my guns are gone now.
Yes.
As I wink. But that's the problem. Yeah, I get my day in court, but then I go in front of a corrupt judge, and according to these red flag laws, they say, nope, you're not having your guns anymore, and that's a problem. So where is your kind of stance on red flag laws, and what do we need to do about it?
Well, I agree. I agree the same with you. I think that red flag laws potentially prevent just normal law-abiding citizens from being able to exercise their Second Amendment right. But so my stance is a little different because you're absolutely right. When you talk about the judiciary, it's very corrupt, but it's very left. And the reason that that's happened is because it's harder to know the political stance of a judge because it's nonpartisan for the most part, unless you're talking about like Michigan Supreme Court when it's party nominated. But we have to start putting up judges. Like this is an easy fix. So we recruit Republican attorneys, which they exist. Hello. And outside of myself, but it's like we have to recruit them and support them and put them on the bench because at the end of the day, we know that the courts are interpreting these laws. And if we don't have any representation on the bench, it's not going to matter. And so that is how we're going to protect our Second Amendment rights is one, we have to recruit Republican judges to run and support them, which means donate. Because sometimes people don't understand what support means. It's like if we want our candidates to win, like Vivek said, we want to stop losing, we have to support. And the news flash of supports means donate money.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that statement. I mean, we have to get behind the candidates who are going to represent us.
Yes.
And we have to do more than just, get on and like something on social media. We have to get out there and we got to support them. We have to work. We have to volunteer. And so
Yes.
I'm going to give you the last several minutes here to just kind of your what you want to say to the folks that are watching. But folks, if you like everything that Alex has to say, her website is in the description of the video. So you can click on it. You can go there. If you'd like to donate to her campaign, please do and support her. And the whole thing, Alex, is we have some really great people running. I mean, we've had, James Craig on the podcast, Michael Hoover, Alex, obviously you, Dr. Sherry O'Donnell. I'm in contact right now with Peter Meyer, got a hold of me. He's going to come on, and Mike Rogers hopefully will come on too, just to share everybody's platform. But all of you have a lot of great things to say. And so you're just going to have to continue to do what you're doing and do you and be you, which obviously you are, because I really felt your heart today, which is fantastic. And that's what I know the people that are watching are feeling. So what would you like to say to the folks out there?
Thank you so much for allowing me to be on here. The foundation of my campaign I have on there is faith, family, and freedom. And it's not just some tagline. Like, we have to return this country to the Judeo-Christian values upon which it was founded. But a big part of that is rebuilding the family. And I strongly believe that there is this attack from the left that is destroying the family. And you will never have strong communities, schools, business without strong families. Like, that is the backbone of this society. And I agree with what Vivek said. We have been losing. And there's been, great people that have ran for office in the past with great policy ideas. But at the end of the day, these ideas and these people, it means nothing if we don't get the representation in DC. And in 24, we have a large task ahead of us. We have to flip this Senate seat. We have to flip this seat. Those who know the history know that Debbie Stabenow unseated a Republican after one term. And so just like the Democrats coalesced around her to unseat an incumbent, we have to be as twice as vigilant to take our state back and our country back. And that does not involve infighting and coming against one another. That involves a leader who can unify this state and can unify this country. And so when we look at this Senate seat, even from the top down, everything is on the line in 24. And so we have to come and rally around the candidate that can get the job done. And I am that person. I always say that I am a David in this Goliath battle, because anyone who knows that story knows that the king and the others were cowering around as Goliath was taunting them. And David came out of nowhere and was an unlikely leader, which some may call me. You may be bothered by the fact that I was a Democrat or other things, but at the end of the day, God called me to this position, and I am that unlikely leader, and I am stepping out of my successful law career, which I practiced for 13 years. I'm stepping out and sacrificing time with my 3 children. Why? Because I want to serve in a greater capacity. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about saving our country and the country that we're leaving our children and grandchildren. So I thank you so much. And anyone who's interested in hearing more, please visit my website, alexandriaforsenate.com. Thank you so much. God bless.
Oh, God bless you. And my goodness gracious, that was a mic drop. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be watching. That's for sure.
Alrighty. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Again, man, we have great people running. They really are. And even she had so many good things, just like, Michael Hoover had to say, and Dr. Sherry O'Donnell had to say. I mean, even James Craig, they all have some great things, but we have to stop the infighting. We do. If we don't unite, number one, we need a leader. We need a leader to unify folks, and that's going to be a tough job. It truly is. It's not going to be easy, easier said than done, obviously, but we need a leader to unite folks, because when we have unity, that's when we can put together a great narrative on all what these candidates are saying and put together a message that we can push out and get through the lies and the hate that the Democrats will always throw at us with everything, being transphobe and homophobe, and we hate the climate, and we're just, capitalistic monsters that want to take from everyone, and that's all hot garbage, and we know it. But it starts with unity. We have to quit attacking one another and understand and know that, folks, you're not going to agree with everyone 100% of the time. And just because you disagree does not mean you have to attack them and hate them and everything else, because we're going to continue to lose. We have to quit with the mentality of screaming from the rooftops that the election continues to be stolen, and we have to get things done. We have to take the action. We have to get the right leadership with unity, and that will produce a good message for all candidates to get behind. That's how we win. My humble opinion. Okay. Phenomenal human being, Alex is, and I'm so grateful that she put herself on here and be vulnerable and talk about how she left the Democratic Party, which I think is a huge positive, because there's many people in the middle right now that have done the same. And if we don't unite, we're going to start losing people in the Republican Party, in my humble opinion. But a lot going on. We have a lot of great people coming on. Matt Maddox is going to come on next week. I have Green Beret Jeremy Brown, who's currently serving an 8-year prison sentence for his involvement in January 6th. He is going to come on the podcast next week, and I will be doing a great show with that. It's going to be a long one, but I'm going to give him his time on what he's doing right now. But it's a pretty interesting story, so be prepared for that to drop. I'll obviously be pushing that out and letting you all know. If you don't watch it live, I'll be posting it on every platform. I'll be sending it to our email list of 100,000 folks. And so you will get to hear that interview. And it's my job to bring awareness, because a lot of these folks have just been forgotten and they move on from it. And a lot of these folks have been wrongfully convicted and sentenced. And I'm going to do everything I can to bring awareness to it and hopefully get some of these folks out. That is for sure. Okay. So continue to hammer down, continue to support the good folks that are sacrificing everything to run for office, because, folks, it's not easy. Trust me, a statewide race is no joke. That is for sure. So God bless you. God bless the state of Michigan, of course, and always God bless these United States. Until next time, bye-bye.